Hey everybody, welcome back to Peachy Disc Golf. Chris here with another solo video at Chattahoochee Pointe Park. Today we're going to be trying out the new Discmania S-Line discs, and we're going to compare them to the old C-Line plastic. So let's jump right into it. Before we get started, let's really quick talk about what discs we have and how they feel in the hand. We have the FD here, the blue disc. The pink disc I have is the PD, and then my purple one is the DD3. So as far as hand feel goes, I really like this S-Line plastic more than the C-Line plastic. It's not as stiff, which I definitely prefer gummier discs. It feels great. There's nice grip and tackiness. Not really any noticeable flashing or anything on the sides as well. They feel nice in the hand. And from what I've seen in other videos, these are significantly more understable than their C-Line counterparts, so that's something I'm interested in seeing. But since I have a lower arm speed, we'll see if that's actually something that I notice, or if it's just all, you'll only notice it if you have good arm speed. So I'm really looking forward to that. One thing I'm noticing right now actually is this FD in this blue plastic. Let me show you a little closer. I don't know if you probably can't see it, but it's got more of a matte texture than my other two, which are more glossy, which is kind of weird, but still feels good. So I'm definitely looking forward to trying these out. I'm pretty sure even in this S-Line plastic, this DD3 is still going to be very unusable for me. I don't throw the DD3 at all. But yeah, the plastic feels great. It reminds me of just Innova Star plastic. I actually have a Star TL here, and compared to like this S-Line plastic, the S-Line might be a little more stiff than this fairway driver, but they're pretty similar in hand feel. I think I have better grip with the S-Line plastic from Discmania than I do from Innova. That's actually why I don't really throw a lot of Innova plastics, is I find it to be too slick for my hand. This S-Line though does have some nice grip. Also, as one last comparison, I have the new Cloud Breaker here in S-Line. This is a special blend S-Line though, and it's definitely different than the stock S-Line here. It's definitely more of like a matte finish than a glossy finish. It still has a really good grip. I think there's more plastic in the flight plate, it feels like. That might just be because of the mold difference, but it's definitely different. This Cloud Breaker feels more similar to, say, like the Royal plastic and Supreme plastic from Trilogy. This does not feel like that, but I mean, it still feels great. I'm actually pretty pleased with the way these new S-Line discs feel. So I'm not going to be playing a 9-hole challenge or anything like that here at Chattahoochee. We're just going to go out to some of the holes where I might consider throwing these discs and just test them out. And we'll throw both the S-Line and the C-Line plastic back to back, so you'll be able to see a direct comparison between the two. So we're going to start off the tee shot of hole 2 here, which is a 400-foot par 4 wide open shot. The perfect place to try out the DD3 here. Normally I throw something understable, but this will totally work. We'll start with the C-Line, the tried and true first. This is going to be pretty beefy for me. And then we'll switch over to the S-Line and we'll see if it's any more understable or not. Yep, that's just a beefcake. Not that much distance. Let's see how the S-Line compares. Oh, that got some turn on it. I think I threw it on Anheuser. Wow, that was a great flight. That was really good. I think I might have thrown it on more Anheuser than the C-Line, but that was sweet. So here's where my C-Line DD3 landed. You can see the basket up here. Not too far away, a little chip approach from here with like the zone, but let's go see where the S-Line is. All right, well, not too long ago, I thought the Hades, when I was testing it out, was the best drive I've ever had here. But now this is the closest I've ever been to the pin on this hole. Actually, I'm testing out some Clash discs at the same time here. My Wild Honey understable driver on what I thought was a good rip is also 30 feet shorter. So that's pretty impressive. I'm pretty impressed with this. I'm looking forward to trying this again. All right, so we're gonna try the tee shot of hole 3 now. This is a 280-foot par 3. Basket is a little off to the left, and the main hazard is just making it through this wide gap about 2/3 of the way down. We're gonna try out the PD here. The FD might actually be a good throw here as well, but I wanted to try these ones out. So we're gonna start with the C-Line first, then we'll go to the S-Line. I know these are gonna be really overstable, so I am gonna try to aim for the right side of the gap here. Oh, I hung it out too wide. Okay, that actually had a pretty nice straight flight though. We'll try the S-Line. We won't really get a great comparison, but we'll see how the S-Line flies at least. Wow, not as beefy for sure. From what I remember with the C-Line PD, that was a beefcake. This one had actually a nice smooth fade, so maybe even for my arm speed, you're noticing that more understability with the S-Line plastic. All right, so the tee shot for hole 4 here, which is a open par 5, but at the tee shot, there are these 2 initial gaps you have to make it through. And before I used to throw like my wave or a distance driver, and sometimes I still do that, but the thing that I found most consistent for me is to throw my crave or something just straight through the gap. So we're gonna try that using the FDs. So again, we'll start with the C-Line FD, then the S-Line, and we'll see if we can make it through the gap. Yeah, that made it right on through. Definitely a pretty overstable finish on the C-Line FD, so we'll see. Hopefully this doesn't completely turn over. I'm not expecting it to at my arm speed, but we'll see if maybe it'll have a gentler fade to finish more in the middle. That'll be nice. Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's not crazy understable. Maybe I threw that a little weaker than the C-Line, but it did have a little flip up to the right, but not anything that's gonna turn over and burn for me, that's for sure. But it did have less fade, which I liked a lot. So the tee shot for hole 7 is a great hole for the FD. You just wanna make it through this initial gap and go straight down. The basket is a little off to the left. So you wanna just go straight down with a little fade. You wanna avoid the dense woods on the left side. So C-Line first, and then we'll go with the S-Line. That should be right up in circle 1. Pretty good throw. Let's see how the S-Line compares. Well, I put that on more hyzer, but it still stayed out of the woods. Actually, that looks like it's maybe just 10 feet in front of the basket, so both great throws. All right, well, here's the C-Line FD, edge of circle short. The S-Line got significantly farther. I didn't expect that. Well, you can see right here, maybe a 8-foot putt. Definitely a birdie here. So the tee shot for hole 12 is perfect for both the DD3 and the PDs as well. So I'm gonna try both. Normally here I throw either my Photon for overstable or sometimes my Hades as well down this right gap and let it fade in. Both of these should do that. So let's start with the PDs first. We'll start with the C-Line and then S-Line, and we'll throw the DD3s as well. All right, that one just in front of that far tree. All right, let's see if we can get a similar shot with the S-Line PD. Maybe not as much fade, but honestly, the fade is good on this hole, so. Very similar, but I feel like I got a little bit of turn out of that. There's a little headwind, so that might have been where that came from. So the C-Line then fought through that a lot easier. But that was a pretty good line. Distance-wise, I think we're looking at pretty similar shots. Now we're gonna do the C-Line DD3. Let's see if we can't push past that last tree on the left. Not with the C-Line at least. Ooh, that was just going left the whole way out of my hands. Can't do much with that. That's I don't bag the C-Line DD3 for that reason. It's always been too overstable. The Photon, the Grace, they'll go nice and straight for a while before dumping. The PD, similar to the Photon actually, in my opinion. All right, now we'll try the S-Line, and we'll see if we can get at least a push straight for a little bit. Wow, super low, but that was going past the tree. I hit a little branch down there, but distance-wise, that's almost right in line with that tree there. Wow, that S-Line DD3 actually might be usable for me. It definitely stays straight for a longer than the C-Line. Wow, I wish I would have put the right height on that to see where it would have gone. So here's the S-Line PD and then the C-Line PD here. So the basket is up here. So the C-Line actually got more distance, surprisingly, but the S-Line did, you could see, have less fade. Then I picked up the DD3 that went in the woods, but the S-Line DD3 is right here just in front of that tree on the left. I hit this branch that was fallen, so that was gonna get up here. That was gonna be probably somewhere just a little past the PD, maybe close to this Clash Discs Honey that I threw in the last video. Definitely check that video out if you haven't. But interesting, pretty good disc. I might have to consider bagging that one. All right, so the last hole we're gonna test out here is hole 13, wide open. The sign says 250. I think it's a little further than that though, but we're gonna test all three. We'll start with the FDs, then we'll go to the PDs and then the DD3s. We'll see how they all compare in this open field. So C-Line FD first. All right, S-Line FD. Little more turn, little straighter carry. Similar distance, C-Line PD. Nice straight flight, very overstable finish. S-Line PD. See if it goes a little straighter further or if the fade is a little less at all. That didn't go as far. I don't know. The S-Line PD and the C-Line PD do feel pretty similar to me. C-Line DD3. Try to really rip it. But you can see it just, I mean, I got good distance out of it. I threw it hard, but it does not flip. It just turns left and left and left. Let's try the S-Line now. Try to throw it just as hard. That was actually a pretty good throw that I just did with the C-Line. Oh, got a little turn out of it, little S-Line. Yeah, and that went really long. So, interesting. All right, so here's the basket. First up, we have the FDs. So my C-Line FDs here, the basket, and the S-Line. It's right here, a little closer, not as far left, so definitely straighter. The PDs, you can see the C-Line PD right next to the FD here, and then the S-Line PD is a good deal further back. Then for the DD3s, you can see my S-Line DD3 here. Went well long of the basket. The C-Line is right here. So it's closer to the basket, but I did get a little more distance with the S-Line, and it did not fade nearly as much. All right, so I'm all finished up comparing these new S-Line discs from Discmania. How do I think they feel compared to the C-Line plastic? I definitely like the plastic better. It's less stiff than the C-Line plastic, which I personally like. It's got a nice gummy feel, still good grip. Honestly, I don't have a problem with the grip on either though. But then flight-wise, there are some differences, but not as much as I was thinking. So the FD here is definitely a little less fade, in my opinion, than the C-Line FD, but it doesn't flip for me at my arm speed. It stays pretty straight. It might have a little turn, but not too much. Pretty straight, but just a little less finish. So it's a straighter disc for me, which I do like. The PD, on the other hand, this one is like the only disc between the three that I feel is pretty similar to the C-Line. I don't see too much differences in my arm speed when I'm throwing the two. They fly pretty similar. The C-Line maybe has a little more fade, but not that much more. I mean, it's great. I do prefer the feel of the S-Line over the C-Line for the PD as well. So maybe I would, if I were to bag one, I would probably still bag the S-Line just out of look and feel alone, and they are fairly similar. The DD3 is the one that I noticed the most difference. With the C-Line DD3, I get nothing out of it. I throw it and it immediately starts fading to the left. It's just an absolute meat hook. I had never had a use for it, never threw it that much. Same with the new Cloud Breaker as well. They were saying that's the everyman's DD3, but for me still with my arm speed, couldn't really get it to go straight. This S-Line DD3 though, on the other hand, I can get it to go straight, even have a little turn, especially if it's in like a headwind like I just threw on that last hole, but it has a nice straight flight before that heavy overstable finish. So honestly, I could find a use for this. I actually want to compare this to something like my Photon, which is an 11-speed disc, but it's still overstable, similar in number. So interested to see how they compare, but I do really like the way this S-Line DD3 flies. So there is a chance that of the 3 discs here, the DD3 is the only one I could see making it into the bag. I did really like the FD a lot, but sort of in this slot, I already have the Crave, which is my sort of straight fairway, and that is one of my favorite discs in the bag, maybe right behind my Envy. I don't see the FD getting rid of the Crave. I'd be interested in doing a comparison though to see how the two fly side by side, but I don't think this is kicking the Crave out anytime soon. And then the PD, sort of the same thing. I don't really have a need for this. If I needed an overstable driver, I'm gonna either go with the Felon, which will be a little bit slower and a little more overstable, or I'm gonna go with my Photon, which is an 11-speed, but it also has a very overstable finish, and I just think I like the way that that feels over the PD as well. So I don't think this is making the bag either. Now, if you are throwing only Discmania, I think there's room for both the S-Line and the C-Line discs because there is a difference. And I think like, especially if you have a higher arm speed, you'll probably notice that more. So like there could be room for having both sets. So if you needed something to fight the wind better, you know, throw the C-Line. If you wanted something to have a little more of an S shape, throw the S-Line. If you're an amateur like me, throwing slower, then you're not going to see much of a difference at that point. I think it's really just going to come down to which plastic do you like better in your hands and which one's more comfortable to throw. So for me, that would be the S-Line over the C-Line for the most part. But that's going to be it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you liked watching this comparison video instead of my normal like 9 to 12 hole challenge comparing the different discs, just sort of showcasing them off on a couple of drives. Let me know down in the comments what you think of that. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and ring that notification bell so you can be notified when our next episode comes out. And until next time, guys, cheers.